Welcome to Nostalgia Week. This is a presentation that was done by Murray Taylor and Gordon Gilchrist in 2005 to a Destination Desktop conference, an AutoCAD conference. And I think I'm going to put it up because there's a lot of great work in here, and Murray and I had a lot of fun doing this project. So Portable Remote Sensing at Olds College was a project done to look at gathering data from remote controlled aircraft. It was also, we wanted to try and see if we could actually teach people to fly them. So we used some kind of interesting methods, some flight simulators and stuff that were new. Everything was electric, and electric aircraft were reasonably new at this point, and had a number of advantages. So you had a battery, speed controller, motor, and propeller. It's clean, quiet, efficient. And we loved the fact that you could turn the motor off and glide, and which reduced vibration on the camera. So these were recent developments then. They're old hat now. So carrying cameras wasn't really common back then, and so that was one of the things that was different, and we wanted to make sure that everything we did was off the shelf. LiPo batteries were new, a huge energy increase over the traditional NiCads. So this made it really possible to carry bigger payloads. We had to do quite a bit of testing because it was so new. We really didn't know what batteries and controllers and motors and props were well together, so we did an awful lot of testing. And then, of course, there's the traditional getting the center of gravity on the airplane right and such. So we did a lot of measuring. We used a number of different types of aircraft. This was one of the more unique aircraft that we flew. And we did tons and tons of tests with electric meters and RPM, so we were able to measure the most efficient method of battery prop engine combinations. Lots of spreadsheet work, and lots and lots of trying different things. And then, of course, you've got to make sure they actually fly. And so we went out and did a significant amount of testing, obviously first without the cameras in it and then with. In those days, a 4 megapixel camera was considered a pretty nice little camera. And when Fuji came out with their interpolated 12 megapixel, this was unbelievable in a point and shoot. And so these are the two cameras we flew in the primary. We had to manually trigger them, which made for some interesting mounts. And then the pictures themselves, we had to figure out how to handle distortion. So we did some interesting analysis on how much distortion the cameras themselves had in perfect conditions, and we could determine distortion due to the camera lens as opposed to distortion due to being not planar with your surface with the camera, with the airplane itself. We ran more than one camera in aircraft at the same time. We used some video cameras to give us feedback where the cameras were targeting, and that made for some interesting flying. We also wanted to determine our GPS, and so we did a number of different types of GPS tests. Gemini was great in Calgary. We did some onboard where we could actually plan a footprint. This was pre UHV type stuff, and so it was pretty interesting work. So what do we actually generate? Here's some of the kinds of pictures that we generated. Botanic gardens, parking lots, footprints. So just some samples of the kinds of things that we were able to do. Farmyards and farmland. water and crops. Of course, we had a wonderful test facility. Urban environments, rural environments. Some nice artsy shots too, every now and then. So what was the capability of the photography? How much detail could we get? What was the value of the images that we got for planning purposes? How could we use this for laying out farmyards and for managing, all kinds of scenarios? And there were some just pretty cool pictures as well. Future development in the towns. This was a zoo that we helped with some of the landscaping, how your project fits in with things around you. This is irrigation layout, oil and gas sector. So what's the impact on the land in both ortho and obliques? Can we spot things like runoff, build process? We looked at some pretty cool stuff in those days. Some of the other interesting things that we proposed were things like counting cattle. We could fly over top of a feedlot and take a picture without interrupting the cattle or anything else. It's quiet because they're electrics. Put those pictures into AutoCAD, tag each animal, and then use auto counts. So they would tell us how many cows were in various pens. So we were able to get these current images which you could use then for planning purposes. We also did this, we did a floriculture plots trial, and so this was to determine the kinds of growth that happened over the season, and we flew a plot about weekly. This was a plot of commercial flowers, and so we were able to get the staging and create a really great base map off of that. So we laid some targets out that we utilized for GPS, and we were able to map those in with GPS and then rubber sheet in the images and get a very accurate indication. Then zoom in on a study area and we could watch how that had changed, how many blooms, what the plants were doing, what the weed conditions were like. So some pretty cool stuff. Anyway, that was the project, and I kind of miss it. And Murray was great to work with.